Welcome to Voyage of the Geek for another week. It's a show where we do post-reactions to classic films from across time and genre. We have a couple of standard warnings in place. First off, if you haven't seen the film that we're about to review, massive spoilers coming down your way. And secondly, truth mileage may vary. Spurious facts could be found within. Joining me as always, Dan Miller, and hot off the bench, Rick Legato, Tony Oakton. Tom is still in the greater European area somewhere. And we expect him back not by the end of the season. So that's it for Tom for this season. We won't see him again. In fact, this is the last show for season 2023. Some would say we've brought in the A-team. Instead of our standard F troop. And if you get that reference, you're in the right place. Tonight we're going to take a look at a legendary piece of fantasy cinema from the 80s, and it's the classic Arnie adventure, Conan the Barbarian.
What is your industry? How many of you are there?
The 1982 swords and sorcery classic, easily one of the films on top of the pile of that particular genre, and has stood the test of time, and certainly an early outing for Arnold Schwarzenegger on screen. I believe this was post-Terminator.
Yeah, Terminator was wasn't it? Early 80s.
I think, yeah, Terminator might have been. I'll check it in a minute, and we'll have a look, but certainly around that same time, where he was still heavily into bodybuilding and still a massive unit. Directed by John Milius. The movie written by Robert E. Howard, John Milius, and Oliver Stone. Starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, James L. Jones, or Schwarzenegger, James L. Jones, or Darth Vader, as we've come to love him. Max von Sydow, who pops up in a lot of the films that we review. Dan, did you see this when you were little, Dan, or is it something that you didn't find until later in life?
I don't know when little Dan saw this, but I suspect it was on one of those VHS video nights, which was what I told my parents when I was going to go out and get drunk with my friends. So, yeah, I think it was one of those video nights where we watched Conan. I think I've only seen it like 2 or 3 times, and that was a long time ago. So it was really blast from the past when I was checking it out again.
It's one of those films that... when you see it as a young person, you appreciate it for a bunch of reasons. And then when you see it as you're older, you appreciate it for a whole new range of reasons. I actually enjoyed the soundtrack and the music.
Yes.
Which I probably didn't pay any attention to at all when I was younger. There was a lot of scantily clad women and raunchiness in this particular film that I probably would have been more attracted to, and the muscles and the fights and all the action. But I found that... it was a broody soundtrack. You know, it was quite good. What about you, Rick? Is this something you found quite early on?
No, I actually found it while I was at uni. I knew about it, but I didn't see it till I was in my early 20s, I think.
What about you, Tony?
Yeah, I don't remember when I saw it. It was quite late. I mean, I was at least in my 30s, maybe in my 40s when I saw it. Because when it came out, I wasn't really watching the way of films, so just sort of slipped by. And I don't think it was the sort of thing I was into, really, these sorts of sorcery things. I thought I sort of wrote it off as being Dharma, not particularly. more just hard.
So have you guys only seen it like once before?
Yeah, I might have seen it twice. It's maybe the only time I've actually sat and watched it all the way through from start to finish.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I've seen it many, many times.
Oh,
It's
okay,
one of
cool.
my favourites. It was one of the first films I bought on VHS,
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
okay.
and it was then one of the first ones I bought on.
Yep. So you may have played the tapeage out of the tape.
Yeah.
And you could, in those days, you could watch a film into destruction. You know, you could literally watch it until it fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
So I might as well go now then, because there's absolutely no chance of me winning this competition.
The quiz?
I was about to say, with Rick, it feels like there's a pattern emerging here.
Yes. He's got the inside dope on a lot of the films that he turns up for. So the cast has got, as I mentioned, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Tom would correct me on the pronunciation of that particular name, James Earl Jones, Max von Sydow, but it also had Sandal Bergman, who was the evil queen in Red Sonja. Remember we did the Swords and Sorcery Barbarian. It was a sort of a female Conan film. She was the evil queen in that one.
So the love interest in this one was the evil queen?
Yes.
Yep. Oh,
Yes.
okay, I did not know that.
Yes, she plays Valeria in this particular film. But I do believe that there's also a bunch of bodybuilders from Arnold's world in the film as well. One, I believe, one of the henchmen that carries the big hammer.
Yeah, I think both of the henchmen.
I think they're...
I don't know, they
they're
remind
big,
me of
They're
like-
big humans. They actually make Arnie look a little small.
Yeah. They kind of make me feel like they're Swedish,
Yes.
heavy metal
Yeah,
guys from the
1980s big hair.
1970s or
Yeah,
I
something.
thought they looked like they were out of Motorhead.
Yeah, something like that.
Jerry Lopez, I believe he has some... there's a unique... he's a surfer, is he? Hawaiian junior surfing champion at age 14.
Was he the thief guy?
Yeah.
Subato or something like that. What was his name?
Yes, I believe that...
Something like that. Yep.
Yes, Subatai.
Subatai.
Subatai or something
Subatai,
like that. Yes. Mako, the wizard, who is the narrator of the film,
Yes.
and doesn't play the journeyman role in the film. He sort of stays in his hut, but he is sort of the narrator of the film and tells the tale of Conan.
And Mako's in a lot of MASH episodes.
Yes, you're right. As an actor,
Yeah, he was the all Asian. You need an Asian. You hire him.
the go-to.
Okay,
Yeah. All right. Well, we normally use the narrative to drive our discussion from start to finish in a linear format. And Dan, you're the keeper of the narrative pathway for this particular film. So where do we start with this one?
Well, the story has, I think, an interesting structure to it, which kind of I'd like to explore as we move forward. It's kind of got a 3-act structure, I feel. Normally, I don't know, we start with a sort of a log line to try and give it, particularly for people who haven't seen it before, give a bit of a vision for it. I don't know, it's like a tale of revenge, I guess,
I think it is. I think it's all about. He certainly doesn't forget the thing that drives him from the very first moments of the film all the way to the very end. He's driven by that one thing.
So young boy gets reason to loses his family, reason to seeks revenge, and that's kind of the overarching thing that's going on in the story. It starts off in darkness, and there's a forge, and there's a blade.
Yeah, the title sequence. What do you think of the title sequence?
It's okay.
I liked it.
There's faces in the dark and hammering tink tink on
It's
steel.
homage to steel. I like
Yes.
the mythology that is
red
introduced
hot.
early on, that it's all about the men cannot be trusted, but you can trust steel. And when the father takes young Conan up on the mountain and tells him the history of mankind and how man
About the gods.
inherited steel from the battle of the gods and things like that, it was good.
I thought in general, I thought the script was pretty good in this, actually. Some really good prose in it, actually.
And I think Oliver Stone might have had a little bit to do with that.
right.
He does write a
Yeah.
good script.
It was intelligent, and it wasn't
Yeah.
over the top,
And particularly, I'll talk more about this later, but they could only, I don't know if they could only, but they chose to only I guess, borrow certain aspects of the IP,
Yes.
like certain names. Falsa Doom, but Falsa Doom's actually a wizard. So they only borrowed names and things, but not actual stories but behind that. So they made up their own stories, which is really interesting. But I thought they did a very good job of stitching it.
Yeah, it was
together.
It was fine.
So are you aware of the comic books, the stories, the books?
I'm a big Conan fan.
Yeah.
Pull your
Okay,
mic a
all
little
right.
closer to your flapper there, mate.
All right. So yeah, you might be able to give us a bit more perspective on which elements they've kind of put into the story.
You're privy to some of the inside politics and goings on in relation to intellectual property.
Yeah.
All right, so they make the blade, and then they go up onto the mountain. This is his father, Conan's father, and young 7-year-old Conan or something or other, tells him about the gods. And I think there's a line there, that you can't trust men, can't trust humans, can't trust anybody, but you can trust steel.
Yep.
And then we cut to the next scene, which is village life in the local village where he comes from.
He's off in the forest fishing.
Yes,
Yep.
doing fun things in the forest. And then we cut to
Slow motion horse hooves. And actually, I love that shot where he must be the scout.
yes,
The guy with the hanger mustache
and crazy tattoos.
and no shirt on in the middle of a frozen
snow.
winter sort of thing. And
Sprinting.
he just jumps up on a rock. And he just sort of gives this stare, and then past him rides the dark horseman.
Yeah.
And so obviously, there's an attack about to happen.
So it's very Seven Samurai. I keep thinking there's
Yeah, it has that sort
there's
of
lots
feel
of
to
other
it.
stories going on here. The village gets raided. Essentially, is the next part of the story.
Mercilessly.
Find out why.
No, we don't. That's true.
I
While we're
think I
watching it-
worked out why.
Well, we might find out later in the story why the village was raided, or put it together.
I think it's for slaves. I think because they stole all the children, they killed all the women and the
There's
men,
possibly two reasons.
and the only benefit that I saw them walk away with was the slaves.
There was another one right at the end, Tulsa Doom. Right at the end, starts to slip a couple of details
does he
about
really?
his motivations back
Riddle
in the
of
past.
Steel.
That's right.
The
He
riddle
was
of
after-
steel. That's right. Yes.
he's after steel. So there's two things going on. Those two things: the slaves and the riddle of steel.
And what I liked is in the Conan IP, or in the Conan canon, the Veneur, I think that they're called. They're other, because there's a whole bunch of different tribes up north. Conan belongs to the Cimmerians.
Yes.
Next to them is the Veneur, the red-headed guys, and they hate each other.
All right.
So it was interesting that they actually made a whole bunch of redheads with Falsa Doom, who raid the village and then steal the Cimmerian kids and drag them back to their territory. So that's kind of. So I like the fact that they lent into the lore.
Yep.
They didn't explicitly say that, but they had that in the movie, so that's good. That's a nod to people who knew what was going on in the background. So the whole village essentially gets killed.
Yeah, and it was down to Conan's mum.
Conan and his mum are the only ones left.
Yes, and we haven't been. Pretty much the whole village is killed except for Conan and his mum before we even see the main bad guy.
Where we see the two Swedish heavy metal rock guys
Yes.
with their spikes covering their leather.
Yeah.
Leather. It's very Mad Max. There's so many things. I think this movie influenced. I don't know which came first, but so it's very Mad Max. And anyway, Tulsa Doom turns up. So
Yes.
James Earl Jones at the very end.
Yes, with piercing blue eyes and
Crazy black hair.
with a crazy sort of
haircut.
bowl cut with a bowl cut mullet. Is probably
Spiked leather
very unique
gear.
look. It was a very unique look, even today.
And Conan's mum's putting up resistance. She's got a sword in her hand. She's trying to protect Conan, and there's 100 bad guy warriors surrounding her, so she's in deep trouble.
Yeah, this whole sequence was shot really well. I liked the premise was introduced that Tulsa Doom has the ability to sort of make you do things. He can stare into your soul, into your eyes, and make you do things. And later on in the story, he makes some woman jump off a cliff, sort of thing, just to prove how weak-minded people are. But he stares into Conan's mum's eyes enough for her to lower her sword.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know whether she just
Gave up, you reckon?
Just gave up.
Yeah, just knew that it was...
Maybe.
Well, definitely there was a very long, quiet moment where the movie really slowed down a lot from all the chopping, right, to this staring contest.
It's like she tried to do it. He tried to do it. Tulsa Doom tried to do it to Conan at the end of the film.
See, this is
tried to get into his brain, and then Conan almost went, and then snapped out of it and chopped his head off.
So this is a spoiler alert. So this is this is a question. Is he doing magic spells, or is he just I don't know.
I think he's a wizard,
Is he just
pretty sure he turns into a snake.
Charismatic,
But I kind of read it different. At first I thought maybe he was going to take her as his wife. But that, good-looking woman.
The head chopping bit it did come. It was a surprise because I think you're right.
Kind of a surprise. It was that sort of tension. Then he looked. It's interesting. There's quite a lot of ambivalence there in his expression. There was no hate. There was no.
Because he actually looks like he's turning
pleasure.
away to ignore her. And you get the impression she puts her guard down. She thinks, they're just going to ignore us. And then he suddenly
whips
Full
around.
of that sort of, there's one thing I like about this film is it's quite a lot of bits in it which are very much open to interpretation. Because a lot of these films are very obvious, or they're just so bad that you can't make any sort of sensible judgment.
Red Sonja is a great example of that. Right?
This has quite a lot of moments in it where you think, well, actually, what was happening there? Why did they do that? Which is probably a combination of the writers and the material, which is good. It's a solid.
Yep.
I watched the making of, and the people that made it really loved the material.
I think so.
It wasn't a bunch of people who were disinterested. They were all.
I think they loved it so much that they didn't have all of the rights, but they still wanted to go through. They wanted to sort of cobble it together and still make it pay homage to the essence of Conan.
So Tulsa Doom swings around, chop, and off goes Conan's mum's head.
It was done quite well.
It was done really well, and I like the fact that Conan.
There's kind of no blood or
he's holding
anything.
her hands, and he's still holding her hand.
Yeah.
And
she falls slow motion.
And he's just left looking at his hand, and it's quite
very tastefully done.
You don't see any
no blood,
or anything. It all happens off camera, but you know
cry,
exactly what happened.
Scream. He's just left with that.
And they don't do over the top emotions for the boy.
Yep.
He's just stunned, and that's and then they move on. So they essentially take all the children as slaves.
Yep.
And they take them ultimately to a mill, to a big. They go to a desert, so they're in the snowy north, and they end up in a desert. And there's this big sort of cross-beamed gigantic thing,
which is known as the Wheel of Doom.
The Wheel of Doom. That's right. It has there's lots of doom in this movie. So you have to push the Wheel of Doom around and around.
It felt like it had no function other than going around.
Yeah.
Yes, I was wondering kind of what it was doing. Was it like a pump for oil? Was he like?
They made that for the film. There is no Wheel of Doom
in the story.
Okay.
Because Conan leaves as a teenager.
Yeah.
Of his own free will.
Because it seems to have no legitimate reason to exist, the Wheel of Doom. Like, it's nowhere you feed grain into it. There's no water source. You're not pumping anything. You're sort of just driving these big concrete wheels or big rock wheels around, grinding rock on rock.
It's a metaphor for life.
Yes.
Grinding, literally.
Servitude and dark place that he has to experience to become the person that he becomes.
So there's this enigmatic wheel that he has to sort of push around. But there's other people pushing as well.
Yeah.
And it starts off...
To start with,
there's like some really cool shots at the start where they just sort of tap. They bring up young Conan up to it, and he's like, what do I do? And they like tap, and he puts his hands on it, and then they they chain him to the wheel, and then they whip him, and he has to just push forever.
Yeah.
But yes, over time, Conan grows bigger.
And he's the only one left.
Well, the other people grow less.
Yes.
My vision of it is he absorbs all of their muscles into himself.
I like the fact that the rut that he's walking gets deeper and deeper and deeper.
That's right.
And then eventually he gets purchased. He gets bought.
So he's grinding and grinding and grinding, and I don't know, whatever they were doing, they run out of whatever that was. You know, it's like, well, we sucked up all the oil or the gas or whatever it was.
Yeah, and
so
the guy that was guarding him was probably told to guard him 10 years ago and doesn't have the guts to go back to the boss and say, what do you want me to do with this guy?
Yeah. So they sell him and, they take him away. Where does he go next? He goes to...
Well, the guy that buys him is really, he's just sort of a gladiator owner.
That's right. Yeah. See, this is more Mad Max because the next bit is the Thunderdome.
Yeah.
They take him to the Thunderdome.
Yeah.
Yeah, he becomes a pit fighter.
Yeah, he's a pit fighter, and he fights people. Initially, he doesn't know what to do. That's the interesting thing. He gets punched out.
Yeah,
and then he sort of...
Works it out.
Works it out. And then he's just...
He's a natural.
In his element.
Yeah. He enjoys it.
And the narrator comes in, saying... He liked to fight just for the glory of the crowd or something or other.
Yeah.
All right, so he spends a bit of time there, gets some skills, and then I think they send him off for training.
There's one thing they just said, though, which actually also quite nice. Because up to that point, he's just... they say he realises that he has worth.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really important thing, because he realises at that point he has value.
Yeah.
Because up to that point he was nothing.
Okay.
But now he has a sense of identity. He knows he has value.
He learns he has value, which is
and is respected. I think it's around this time of the film that that one of the chieftains or elders of one of the villages that they visit, sitting around the campfire, and
that's a warrior camp.
He's asked, what is best in life.
Yeah.
So he's still a slave, is the point, right? He's still a slave, and he goes off and he gets some training and learns a bit more about how to, chop people with a sword.
Yes, he gets some samurai Asian type training.
Yes,
with sword play and poses and fighting technique.
And the actual trainer in the film was the actual sword trainer
for the film.
Yeah,
gotcha. That happens a lot in movies. Yeah, the weapons expert is that guy. Yeah, there in the
like in Darth Maul, I think was the.
He was a stunt guy. Yeah, you're right.
That. Yeah.
He was also the frog guy in the first X-Men.
Ah,
the guy with the frog tongue.
So they also have him in a cage, and they bring him a lady for some extra training.
It's for breeding stock. He's being used for breeding stock on some. So she probably was like the chief's daughter or something. Like she was probably some sort of status, because I don't know whether they'd be paying money to breed Conan to any old wench,
unless she was a high stock slave like
possibly
Conan.
Yeah, just for that purpose.
So he's in their breeding program, and then yes, it ends, as you said, with like Conan sitting on a table, and there's some Mongol warrior chief dude, and he says, to generally anybody who's willing to listen.
Yes.
What's best in life. And one of the other Mongol warrior dudes says something like, it's really good if you've got a nice car and a stable job and money in the bank and savings is very valuable. And then the Mongol chief says, what a load of bullshit. And they ask Conan, what is best in life? So who wants to do the line?
To see your enemies driven before you. Hear the lamination of the women. No,
conduct the lamination of the women.
Was it to see your enemies driven before you? And then there's another line, and hear the.
No. The first bit is crush your enemies.
That's it.
Yes, crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation.
The lamentation
of the women. And he butchers the line as much as we just did as well in the film. God help anyone trying to understand what he says in the film.
I got the gist of it.
Yeah. You got
And if anyone wants to know what that word means, it's basically the sorrowful cries.
lamentation.
Yes.
Lamentation.
All right. And then they just like decide, we've had this guy for a pretty long time. He's been down at the Thunderdome, and we've earned all this money from him.
Yeah. He had a.
He was
like
part of our breeding program.
and it was like the boss, the guy that owned him, got on the sauce one night because he seemed a bit pissy.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night, woke him up as he was asleep outside under the stars around the campfire. Just woke him up in the middle of the night, cut the chains off, and then said, "Get out of here!" And then Conan, I thought it was a good sequence that Conan didn't know what to do, and he thought he'd done something wrong, and he didn't want to go. He didn't know what freedom was.
Yeah, so they pushed him out of the camp, and then he wised up pretty quickly, and he ran off.
Yeah.
Now, what happens next, I imagine, is a bit weird in terms of the cinematography, because he runs out of that camp, and then immediately in the next shot, he's being chased by dogs.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure the dogs were sent after him.
Yes, it's a little bit confusing.
I think they were wild dogs.
They were wild dogs. They were I think they were meant to be wild
he just
dogs.
ran into the wild
I
dogs.
think they were meant to be wild dogs. Yeah. He's been running through the wilderness
For like a week or something or other. And
It could have been longer, and they might have been sent after him by someone completely different.
yeah, maybe the boss is like,
Yeah.
you did what?
Let
him go.
Yeah. But I liked the cinematography sort of choice to cut from a run to a run, with where he's just running because he's free and he doesn't know where he's going or anything, and then he has a purpose for running, which is running from the dogs.
So he runs up a hill onto a pile of rocks. Now, this shot with the dogs running up onto the pile of rocks was the first shot of the film. Yes. And the dogs ran up the hill and they savaged Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
So they bit his arm and he had to get stitches and stuff.
Yes.
So their very first day on the job, they had their lead
So this is
actor
their first shooting
bleeding.
day?
Yeah, the first shooting day.
Gotcha.
They had their lead actor bleeding, so it didn't bode well. But he's up on the rocks, and we're coming to the end of Act 1. And he falls through a hole in the rocks.
Finds an opening.
So it's a big pile of rocks, and there's some writing on the wall, mysterious writing.
That's right.
And he falls through a kind of an opening or a hole to escape, and then the dogs, so he can escape the dogs.
Yep.
And he's in the dark, and he lights a fire in the dark.
Yes.
And he finds that he's in a crypt.
With some sort of king type character in a throne, skeleton version. In fact, everybody in the room is skeleton version, and a lot of them standing up. So they,
As you do.
yeah, they stood up for so long,
Yes.
that they became skeletons in standing up format, which is sort of a theme throughout the film. There was
True.
quite often standing skeletons around
of
the
that.
place.
Yep.
But yes, it seemed to be a fairly significant place that he had found,
He's found a king. A king.
who he thinks is Crom,
So he says Crom.
who is
He's under a mountain.
yeah,
He has a big
True.
sword, and he's a very big king.
yep,
True.
yep.
True.
And Crom is who Conan prays to.
Crom's his god.
Crom is his god.
So and the king is holding like a big super sword, a big epic sword. So Conan says, nice sword you have there. Yoink.
Yep.
And he grabs it, but in a very,
Yep.
serious way.
I did
he cleans it off.
What do you think of that shot where it's all crusty and it's got like a layer of shit on the outside of the sword, and he just starts tapping it on, like banging it on the stone, and it starts to come free, and then reveals this shiny sort of beautifully crafted sword. I thought that was a great scene.
Yeah, it's good sense.
Yeah,
Then quite symbolic where the king then disintegrates behind him.
yeah.
That's sort of indication that power's being transferred from the king
Yeah.
to Conan. And there's
Yeah.
it's quite
Yeah, very
delightful.
nice.
And that the sword outlasted all of them in
Yeah,
there.
that's right. And there's a-
I thought actually that the king didn't really disintegrate; his head bowed.
Oh,
that's
even more-
interesting.
I like that.
His head bowed,
Yeah, I like that.
and that was him. Yeah, and like you said,
It's just been transference of power.
transferring the power.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. And I do like the next shot too, where he surfaces, comes to the top of the crevice that he'd crawled down into this chamber, and without even looking, swings the sword down and
Breaks a chain.
breaks the chains off his ankles. And then
symbolic.
and then does a Arnie look towards the dogs. And in the very next shot, he's wearing the dogs, right? He's got brand new fur threads on.
I didn't notice that.
Yes, he starts run, and they run everywhere. Did you notice that in the
A lot
film?
of running.
If you don't have a horse, you run everywhere.
Well,
It's a very
can't
Lord of the
imagine
Ringsy.
Many Ubers around there, so yeah.
There's no walking. Like you literally. I remember when he meets
There's a long way. There's big
the Jerry
distances.
Lopez character. They just start running. You know.
I don't know. I think if they were walking everywhere, it doesn't have the right tone in the movie. You know, it's
I like it. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it would be a little too casual.
Yeah, it's a little too casual. You need to have a sense of urgency.
Yeah,
Yes.
But I loved that scene, man. I had to see it probably about the third time I saw it, and like you, Tony, I think I saw it a bunch of times without seeing the whole thing from start to finish. But I remember seeing that sequence where he cuts the chains off with his sword, and then your next scene you see him running. But I never noticed that. Yeah, he's wearing those dogs as garments, which I thought was really good.
I think we're stuck on the last one.
Oh, are we?
So the interesting thing here is that that's kind of the end of Act 1, and we don't have. I mean, we don't. What's Conan even up to at this stage? You know, we've just got history. We've just got character building. We've just got the character arc.
The origin story.
The origin story, right? He's not even, he's not even doing stuff yet. So anyway, we enter Act 2, and he comes across a rock sort of grotto, and there's a
Random woman.
there's a woman comes out of a house,
Scantily clad.
scantily clad as you do, and she basically invites him in, right?
Yeah.
She invites him to come in.
Yeah.
Come on in, have a cup of tea.
And be warmed by her fire.
And be warmed by her fire. So this is Odysseus, right? You all know the story of Odysseus. He keeps going to different places, and there's weirdos who hassle him, right? So she invites him in, and they have a bit of a conversation. And this is where we get a hint of what Conan's up to, and he's looking for, two snakes that are one
Yes.
with their heads facing each other.
Yes. So somewhere in his running, he has come up with a purpose in life.
And we might not have mentioned, but the two snakes was the symbol.
It was the standard carried by Thulsa Doom.
The bad guys who killed his family.
And it's actually a very handy bit of storytelling because we see him make the gesture of the two snakes.
I thought it was very cool.
So then later on, when he's asking people, we don't need to hear him ask. We just see him making that
Yes.
gesture. And, and we know what he's after.
Yep.
So the lady kind of has some info. She kind of knows a bit or a thing or two.
Gives him a destination. Gives him a town to go to.
Yes.
Crossroads or something.
But she only asks for one thing in return. A good bonking.
Yes, a medieval bonking around the campfire.
I think there was a bit of a succubus
Yes.
Yeah,
thing
definitely.
going in
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
She realises he's a naive barbarian, has no idea.
Yep.
And she also tells his fortune of the future.
That's right. There's a
That
prophecy.
one day you will be king by your own hand.
And she mentions, by the way, down at the local town, there's a bunch of snakes down there. Go and check out local town. Go down there. And then probably she turns into a demon.
Yes.
As you do.
Mid-snog.
Mid-snog, yes.
Yep. And to which his reaction was to pick her up and throw her on the fire.
Yes, and she had a witty comeback, which was, so what? I'll just become a fire demon.
Yes. And then she whizzes off.
Bounces around the room and flies out the door.
Yes.
Job done.
Yep.
Okay.
I thought it was all right.
Yeah, I thought the
It's a bit of a side quest
it
kind
was
of a thing.
composited.
The special effects in it were generally okay.
Yeah, later on when we see Conan being saved, and the demons are coming trying to take his body away, I'm reminded of some of the paint over animation that we've seen.
Yeah, that's all right.
You
It's
know,
quite
through
nice,
some of the
isn't
films that we've covered, as a cartoon almost exercise, a
that's
two-dimensional thing. But in this film, they were done quite well.
Yeah, they did quite well.
The 3D space was used quite well. It didn't feel A over B too much.
So then Conan says, all right, cool, whatever. I'm out of here. And he's just about to leave as he exits the vampire lady's house.
Yeah.
Can I just ask one thing here?
Sure.
I've always found it odd, right? He goes in, turns out it's a succubus, tries to eat him alive, whatever, throws her on the fire. She laughs and whizzes out. This is at night.
Yeah.
He doesn't think, Jesus, I'm getting out of here. He's like, no, it's all right. I'll stay till morning.
Yeah, that's right. He chills at her crib.
Yeah. And then, doesn't bother getting... I would have been out of there pretty much straight away myself. I mean, I'm not a barbarian.
Yeah.
That's
But
true.
I'm just like, chill, dude.
Yeah.
He's not particularly worried. He just spends the rest of the night there.
Yep. That's the kind of guy Conan is.
Now, he meets one of his companions, doesn't he?
Outside.
Who's
Yes,
chained
outside.
up outside.
Yeah.
Who says, give me some food. And what does Conan say? He says, well, anyway, he wants some food because he's really hungry and he's really tired, and the wolves are going to come and kill him, and he wants to be able to fight them before he dies. So anyway, he's a thief. His name's, what is it, Subutai?
Yes, Subutai or Subutai. Yep.
And
Jerry Lopez is the actor.
And so Conan, unchains him from the wall, and then they go off and have some dinner. They have
Chicken.
KFC.
Chicken. There's a lot
Yes,
there's a
around
lot
a
of
fire.
Chicken
Yeah.
legs in it, or things which might be chicken. Very large
Yes.
chicken legs.
Yeah.
Maybe ostrich legs.
Maybe ostrich. Yes, that's something suitable for a barbarian.
Huge chops which they found somewhere.
Yep.
Ripped off some animal.
And in that scene, they have a chat about the gods,
Yeah.
which I thought was fun.
That was interesting. So I thought his God's better because his God's. And again, it's sort of like slightly thought-provoking thing. I imagine you see something in Conan's eyes. He's questioning how good his God really is now. Because this guy's made a really good point. And he's like,
Yeah.
maybe Crom isn't that good after all.
So Conan's trying to brag, saying, "My God sits on top of a mountain."
Yes.
And Subutai says,
My God's the God of the sky.
which is above the mountain.
Everything happens under him, sort of thing. And I thought that was
That's good.
yeah.
And I like Conan's response. Conan's response is he kind of looks at him and he's like, "Fuck off." He just like doesn't have anything to say. It's like,
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, worth mentioning, one of the things I like about this film actually is that it doesn't overdo the plot exposition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just sort of goes with it.
It's a
There's
very
this sort of-
pared back script. I don't actually have that much dialogue throughout
No,
the whole
it's just
script.
sort of things just happen and you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got like sort of Sergio Leone sort
Yeah,
of
exactly.
spaghetti western sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's people just wandering through this world and encountering things.
There's another connection to Sergio Leone in this film. They shot it in the same place.
Okay.
The Spanish desert, the high desert in Spain, and you can feel it when you watch them
Yeah.
running through the landscape and stuff. You can. That's the good, the bad, the ugly. That's fistful of dollars. It's all those spaghetti westerns were made in that same place.
So for the story, we're making progress, and they arrive at the town that was talked about before. And yes, sure enough, it has a gigantic tower in it, covered in snakes,
Yep.
and out of marble.
Yeah.
Big stone tower.
And they're seeking information in a lot of these places. They're sort of talking to a lot of the locals, trying to work out. They find the towers, but really they're still looking for some sort of headquarters.
They're looking for that symbol.
But it seems that towers are in almost every settlement. So this religion, this snake religion,
Yes, they're finding out
is
there's a
spread all across the land.
yeah, and people kind of people don't necessarily like it, but yeah, it's kind of getting everywhere.
Yep.
I thought there was some quite nice pieces of scenery, some set pieces here. It's
I
quite
thought so too.
They'd obviously put a bit of effort into making this stuff. I don't know how much of it was matte painting and how much of it was real. But there's enough real stuff in it to make it, and it didn't look
I think so.
phony.
Yeah, no, I think there's enough set pieces.
I know, obviously they've acquired some of it from.
They kind of had a town on a hill with this tower, and there's loads of populated people in there all walking
There's
around.
a big cast in this as well. A lot of them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
The designer, the production designer, was Ron Cobb, I believe, and Ron Cobb did.
Name's familiar for some reason.
He's royalty. He's production design royalty. He has done. If I had a television that was seeing what was on my screen here, you'd even be able to see his face. Ron Cobb has Conan the Barbarian, The Abyss, The Sixth Day, Aliens.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he's Back to the Future.
Wow.
He's royalty, and this would have been quite early on. So this would have been physical.
Yeah,
It's really cool. I mean,
This is
it's a really
physical.
cool thing to make. You know, there's a lot of people in that, and they're all
Yep.
dressed appropriately. It's not a cheap.
It's
thing
not a
by
small
any means.
production, no.
No, it's a big production. It's done well, and you know.
Yeah, he's royalty.
So as they're wandering around town, they had one scene which I had totally forgotten, and it was such a cool deja vu when I remembered it. Somebody gives Conan like some drugs or something.
Stygian.
Stygian.
Yeah, it's Black Lotus.
Yes, Stygian,
which is the,
only the best.
Which is the opium of the
Yes.
Conan world.
Okay.
Yes, and his little mate says, "Chew it slowly," you know, and he ends up getting ripped, and then punches out a camel.
He like accidentally bumps into the cannibal and then
And
punches a camel.
And that camel comes back in the next Conan film
It does too. Yes,
and gets his revenge and spits on him.
that's right. Yes,
Because camels don't hold grudges.
So that was fun, and I only just remembered that when I watched it again, and I was like, yeah, because, you know, that was one of the things that at one of those VHS parties, everybody thought that was freaking hilarious.
yes.
So eventually they decide that they're going to break into this big snake tower thing, and they're going to do stuff. I think they've heard that there's some gems in there or
Yeah.
something or other.
Yeah.
Eye of the Serpent.
The Eye of the Serpent. So they're like, yeah, let's just go and break in there. Mm-hmm. So they walk
Well,
up.
his mate's a thief.
His mate's a thief, true.
Yeah.
He's probably egging him on.
Yeah.
You know, bad influence.
And he's probably
everything.
looking at it like these people are arseholes. You know, the Snake clan. I might as well steal stuff from them.
Why not?
So yes, he's been talked into being a thief.
And just put in here in the Conan IP, after he leaves Sumeria and has a whole bunch of adventures, his first job is a thief, and he becomes actually a very well-known
Yeah.
thief. And one of the skills he has, besides because he's Conan, is as a Sumerian, he can climb up any wall, any tower.
Really?
They're renowned for climbing up mountains. And so, whereas other thieves have to use ropes and things or can't climb up sheer surfaces,
Okay.
Conan's very good because he's Sumerian and can just scale up things and becomes a very renowned young thief in his early days.
Yeah.
Before he starts having big adventures.
Yeah, and he does that in this film, doesn't he?
yeah.
She tasks him.
Well, we haven't got to she
so
yet.
we're about to run into her, aren't we?
Yes.
Right. So they're
Kind
at the
of.
base of the tower,
About to climb up.
getting their ropes together, trying to
That's
work
right.
out what to do, and then they meet who?
They meet Xena, warrior princess.
That's right.
What's her name?
Also
Valera?
known as Valerian.
Also correctly known as Valerian.
And she's actually a real character in in Conan, although she's not that character.
Okay.
But she is a blonde
Valkyrie.
Valkyrie. Yeah.
Type person. So I feel like the story has generally, spoiler alert, is a good story, well written, strong. But in this bit, they just walk up the tower and it's like, oh, another one of the characters. Hello, how are you? Should we join forces? Sure. Climb
Yeah.
up this wall. Let's go.
Yep.
So that felt a little
It did feel a
rushed.
feel a little convenient.
Yeah, they did. I mean, there was that short standoff, but it seemed to get resolved very quickly, very easily.
They kind of thought each other was guards, and they were like, "Are you a guard? No, I'm not a guard." Oh,
Yes. It was almost. You could have almost done them climbing up one side of the tower with her climbing up the other.
That would
They
be
meet
hilarious.
at the top.
All right, my lame idea was that they meet down at the hardware store, and like Valeria's trying to buy all the ladders, and Conan's trying to buy all the ropes, and then that's how they kind of meet, and then they're like, "Oh, what are you doing?"
She takes over quite quickly. She's calling the shots immediately. You do this, you go there, and taking the piss out of the boys instantly. You morons. But I thought that dynamic actually worked pretty well because Arnold can't speak English very well. And the other guy's a surfer from Hawaii. She was actually she was a pretty good actress.
Yeah. I think she was a fair income actress.
She's got a pedigree. Like she's been in a lot of films.
And it's actually interesting, like, how nowadays, if there's a strong female character, all the incels start crying. Like, oh, they're ruining science fiction. There's a woman with power.
Yeah.
My penis has fallen off.
Yeah. Well, she saved Conan's life.
And here, it's 1982.
Yeah.
And you got a woman who basically, bosses Conan around.
Yeah.
And his mate, and she's clearly more experienced than both of them.
Yeah.
Did anyone care in 1982?
Nope. No.
So what goes on? They climb up the tower. They go inside. There's a sort of a secret ritual going on. There's some religious ritual. So there's all these people chanting.
Yep.
And they're kind of worshipping stuff.
Cult of Set.
Cult
Yep.
of Set,
Yep.
snakes.
One of the main henchmen is overseeing said ritual.
Yeah,
seems to be
he's like
his.
one of the Norwegian heavy metal guys.
Yes.
you know? Yeah.
He seems to be in charge of this particular complex, and it down in the pit underneath the ritual, which is obviously going to result in some kind of virgin being launched off down into the snake's pit, is one hell of a snake.
It's a big snake.
It's possibly this fat.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a big snake.
A very large, bright red snake.
That happens to be sleeping at the time that they arrive.
Yeah.
So the cunning plan is that Conan and Subutai are going to go downstairs and go and get the gem,
Yep.
while Valeria,
She's in disguise.
she's going to.
One of the wenches.
Well, they're not sure where this thing is. She says, I'll search upstairs. You
Yeah.
search downstairs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they find it downstairs. The eye of
The serpent.
which is a jewel, a green jewel about so big, is down in the snake pit.
Not to be confused with the eye of the tiger,
Yes, that's
which
right.
came around the same time.
Yeah, it's pretty much around the same time.
Those two guys were in the band.
Yeah.
It's the same
that's
band.
right. Yes, that's right. the guitarist from Eye of the Tiger.
Yep.
So they're down there, and they sort of steal the gem.
Yeah.
They grab it and they stick it in their shirt. But
They almost get away.
they almost get away. It's a bit like this
So
sound
one
like
thing
any other movie.
So I thought it was a really interesting choice of music here, because in any other music it would be an action music and a horn section. It'd be here it was like madrigals going on, really relaxing,
Yeah.
and they're doing all this stuff, and there's people chilling out upstairs, and there's no tension at all. It's
Yep.
just like, it's really relaxing. I like that.
Yeah.
They were kind of because it was they were doing their ritual.
This mesmerised sort of crowd.
There's no sense of tension in the scene at all. As far as
Well, there was tension from Mr. Conan because he was sweating.
is he sweating up?
He was sweating profusely because he's doing the Indiana Jones thing with trying to get the gem,
Without disturbing the snake.
Yes.
and he without disturbing the snake, but his sweat
Dripped on the snake's eyeballs.
right on the eyeball.
Right on the eyeball.
Snakes don't like that.
Yeah.
Bit of snake. So he wakes up.
It was
The
sting,
snake.
that would.
What was that?
Conan's sweat would sting. If that made
Oh, you'd probably kill and hurt. Be like, oh,
acid in your eye.
God. Can you imagine the poor snake? Oh, I got stinky human sweat in my eye. Yuck.
So consequently, the snake's pretty mad.
Yeah.
And it kind of, there's going to be a fight between Conan v. Snake.
Yes.
And Snake is not going to come off too well from that.
No, and it is a multi-hack beheading. An excellent physical effect in the film, really. You got the sense that this thing is a big chunk of meat, didn't you? You didn't. It didn't feel like a paper mache job. It was, it had blood and
they filled
muscle.
it with stuff.
It felt pretty good. And it wasn't just chop the head off in one foul swoop. It was like,
Hack your way through.
ISIS, bring out the video camera time. And it was pretty gory. It was a pretty gory scene. And then said wench up the top, that was the virgin that was about to dispatch herself, then dispatched herself into the pit with the dead snake. And
It was very anticlimactic from that point of view.
pretty much, yeah. She starts screaming, and then the guards get called out, and then it's an escape.
They all went away.
And they're up the ropes and they're out of there.
Yeah.
Okay, so once they've got the gem, what do they immediately do?
Get pissed.
Yes.
They go,
Celebrate.
Yes.
they go to a nightclub.
Because apparently they got away with a lot more than just the gem. They had a big bucket of gems.
Speaking of extra things, on the way out, Conan spies a jade symbol
Yes.
on the wall.
Yes.
That's what almost allows the snake to get him, because he's staring at that.
That's right.
Symbol.
Yep.
And so it's the two snakes with their heads pointing together in front of the black sun, which is exactly the thing that he was
Yes.
looking for.
And he takes it.
So he puts that in his pocket.
And that has an
they're out of there.
important role later on in the film.
Yes.
Absolutely. So they get drunk. They go to the roughest nightclub in town and have fights and
live there for a while.
Has,
Feels like they live there for a
consummates
while.
his relationship with the blonde lady, whose name I forgot, Valeria or whatever name.
Valerian, yes, they
They become
Become a unit.
a
they
unit.
become they become a
Gives you the
unit.
gem.
Yeah.
And they basically drink a lot, buy heaps of armor and swords.
Yes.
Or whatever, I suppose the barbarian fantasy version of merch and
Yeah.
and stuff.
That's exactly
bling.
what goes on.
Chainmail bling.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were. Oh, it's a gold chainmail.
Yeah.
All right. And yeah, in the morning, when Conan's still drunk,
Well, as the narrator says, is success can test a man just as the biggest challenge or the biggest failure.
which is very true. So Conan, falls asleep in his porridge, and the town guards turn up and arrest everybody.
That's right.
And the town guards take them to see the town king, who's actually a bit pissed off that the local snake cult is getting all their snakes everywhere. He's finding it really annoying.
And they've also his daughters
Yes.
become brainwashed and join
Fallen
them.
that guy's spell.
Yeah. So he congratulates Conan and Co. For robbing the cult, and
Gives them a quest.
gives them a quest, and gives
Yeah, ba-bong.
pretty much
Blah, 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 blah. Go here, do that.
So
Blah,
what
blah,
is their
blah.
quest? Their quest is
retrieve the daughter of the king,
Yep.
yes.
who has fallen under the spell of Tulsa Doom,
And he's to become his bride.
and is to become his woman. That's correct.
And this king is going to pay them fabulous wealth.
Yes.
Because after being super rich himself, it's like, this stuff doesn't matter anymore. All that matters is my
Family.
daughter.
Yes.
Not true, by the way. Wealth's much more important.
Yeah.
There you go. Get your priorities straight. So I don't know. That's a deal, and that's a wrap on Act 2.
Yeah, that's the deal that is offered. But not everybody in the group want the deal.
That's true. That's true. In fact, yes, that's right. Valerian basically says to Conan, "It's like
We got
on,
enough.
man.
We've got enough stuff.
Settle
We
down,
don't need
have
any
some
more
kids.
stuff.
Yeah,
Good little
a
place.
little house,
Little house, bit of land.
nice
yeah,
gardens."
chickens.
Have some little barbarians.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can do the gardening on the weekends.
Yeah.
You can wear a sweater.
And Conan ignores
And Conan,
all of that.
while he's looking at that jade symbol the whole time.
His mind's full of revenge.
Yes.
And in the morning, he's gone.
Yes. He's finally found the target of his desire.
So that's the kind of end of Act 2. And we're only now really getting to the meat and potatoes of what Conan's up to.
Yep.
So I don't know. This is what I think is a nice, really cool structure about the story, that it doesn't give you the quest within the first 5 minutes and you spend the rest of the movie doing it. So Conan goes off and wanders into the desert and comes across hippies everywhere.
Does he come across the wizard first and then the hippies? Or the hippies and the
He sees some hippies and
Children of Doom, they're called.
Children of Doom.
yeah, and while he's coming across loads of hippies just wandering around with flowers,
Yep.
and those are the hippies that are heading off to Cult Central.
Yeah.
Yeah, he comes across the wizard.
Yes.
That was a bizarre sequence with the wizard. Is this a wizard who I don't think does any magic? Does he do any magic at all?
Well, he saves Conan's life. He does.
Does he, though?
He's more of a priest than a wizard,
Yeah,
isn't
the
he?
priest.
Yeah.
More of a shaman than an actual
Yeah.
making spells sort of wizard thing.
Yeah.
And then when
But you're
the
right.
demon-
I don't think
then
he
when the
does any
demons turn up,
magic.
He runs away and hides because he's scared.
I think he calls himself a wizard, though, doesn't he?
Yes, he calls himself.
Well, he makes a lot of claims.
Yes. Yes, he does.
He's also the narrator, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
he is the
He narrates from the very start of the film.
So there's this kind of burial mound, this sort of burial area, a bit like sort of Stonehenge, with lots of stone monuments and sort of old skeletons all standing.
Still standing.
Still standing.
But it feels like a holy place, a sort of a place of worship or significance.
Place of the dead, maybe.
Where no fire burns.
Where no fire burns.
Oh, really?
That's what he says that
That's right.
that no fire will burn up on the mound, which becomes significant later
Does,
on.
yeah.
So they kind of hang out and they have a bit of a chat, and then I think Conan asks him if he has any flowers, and Conan swaps his sword for flowers.
Yes, his plan is to sneak in,
Join the hippies.
join the hippies and sneak in because you have to bring flowers to the pilgrimage.
That's
But
right.
you know it's not going to work. It's like a punk trying to pretend to be a hippie. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, the rest of the hippies are scrawny little hippies. They look like hippies, and he just looks a little bit not like a hippie.
No, that's
It
right.
looks like he's eaten.
Yeah,
He's eaten the hippies.
3 of those hippies.
All right, so he follows the trail of hippies, and eventually there's just like hippies everywhere. And he ends up in Hippie Central, which is where, this cult stuff is all going on. And so he's got to get closer. He strikes up a bit of a conversation with a priest.
Yeah.
And the priest, I don't know, there's some sort of homosexual slight overtones that are kind of going on here.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
free love or something is
And actually, I thought Conan was quite sophisticated from the days of being a slave. He picked his target, and he's like, "Ooh, I'm shy.
Yeah.
Let's talk where no one can
Dangled the
see us."
carrot.
That's right. And there's a bit of a who's manipulating who going on here.
Yes.
And the priest says, let's go behind the rock. And they go behind the rock, and Conan murders him
Yes.
and steals all his clothes and puts them on.
Yep.
And then wanders up to Hippie Central.
So they're on the big mound, the sort of it's almost a Aztec or Mayan type, large stoned
Like
temple
an escalator temple to...
with hippies everywhere.
Olympus type deal thing.
Yeah.
And he tries to flash his jade statue to the bouncer.
Which is his mistake.
To get in, yes.
And the bouncer lets him pass, but then sneaks off and tells the henchman, see that guy over there? He's got a stolen
Super symbol.
super symbol.
Yes.
So Conan gets captured.
Yeah, so, yeah.
And I think this is the start of the third act.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Conan has the symbol, which he thinks, I'll just give that to those guys and see if I can get inside. But, yeah, it turns out...
It reveals him as a
That's right.
thief.
They know that's the symbol that got stolen from the village up
Yes.
there. So I think what happens is Tulsa Doom turns up. And he's talking to the crowd, all of the pilgrims everywhere.
And he starts saying, one of you is not.
Yes, and Conan's in the middle of them there trying to sneak up, getting closer and closer.
Yep.
And Tulsa Doom says, I see you, something like that. And then it's like, traitor. And the Norwegian heavy metalists grab him.
They do. And then they
shows
proceed,
up and
proceed to beat him mercilessly
Yep, they beat him to a pulp.
in the special beating arena out the back, surrounded by hippies. all around. And this is a good sequence, I think, where we learn a little bit about
I think it's part
Tulsa
of the
Doom.
inner sanctum. It's actually a place where they're all eating and drinking wine, and there's a nice fountain.
Yeah.
And they just happen to be beating Conan.
And he reveals that you killed
Yeah.
you killed my family and my whole village.
Yeah, and
Yes.
again, I thought it was a nice touch where the bad guy was named Doom. He didn't revel in it. He wasn't like, oh yeah, you deserve. He was like, oh,
Well,
that was a past.
Yeah,
past
he
me. I
barely
don't do-
remembers it.
Yes,
don't
he
do
doesn't
that
remember
anymore.
it.
It's completely insignificant
Yeah,
to him.
and there's no. It's kind of ambivalent, really. Again, you know.
And that's when he says, yes, that was probably in the days when I was
Yeah.
hunting steel
Yes.
or something or other.
Another thing I like about the film is he's not your sort of quintessential bad guy, evil cackling bad guy. He's he's just doing his shit, you know, and getting on with it, and you know.
But he does have his own motivations,
He does,
right?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
does. Yeah.
So what is his motivation with old Mr. Conan here?
Well, the riddle of steel, but he also, I thought he explains in this sequence that steel is nothing compared to flesh.
Oh yeah,
That's him monologuing.
Yeah.
But that's true. And he proves that. How does he prove that?
By just
Gratuity.
telling some female 8
Rando.
meters, 10 meters up to just jump.
And I think what he's talking about is the power of the person that wields the steel, which in this case is the power he has over that woman.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where the real.
He made a good point. But steel doesn't mean anything. If left alone, it's just over there, right? It's only when it's in somebody's hand the steel is important.
So he's kind of said, I suppose, that he's upgraded. You know,
Yes.
Yeah.
in the past he was just after steel, but now he's found this new power, which is the power over
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But he also has another motivation, and that is that they killed his pet and stole his gem.
Ah, that's right. Yes.
So it says you broke into my house, killed my priests, and actually the snake was reared by one of the Motorhead guys.
Yes, that's right.
And as he says, and whatever his name is, has been beside himself.
Yes, completely distraught. Yes. He wants his jewel back.
Yeah.
But he's not going to get it back. And so he's going to pass sentence.
Yes. Take him to the tree of
Contemplate this on the tree of woe.
woe. That's
We
right.
still say
There's doom.
we still say that in my house when
Yes.
one of us is in trouble. One
Yeah.
of us will say to the other, "Contemplate this on the tree of woe." and we say to Olive, but unfortunately she's 6
Yeah.
and hasn't seen Conan, so she doesn't understand.
Yes.
She'll get that
In time.
experience in time. You'll
time,
learn,
she will
my daughter,
understand.
I'm sure. You say in very wise ways.
So he's crucified
He's crucified.
on the tree of woe in the classic crucifixion.
Crucified, basically, yeah.
Metal bolts through the wrists and
you do.
ankles. I like the sequence where he's crucified and he's sort of asleep. I think crucifixion generally you're dead in a couple of days, but he was there long enough for the buzzards to close in, and one of them gets a little too close.
And he bites it.
He quickly grabs it with his teeth and dispatches it to the ground.
That's right.
I love the way of showing like how hardcore Conan is. Like rather than that's a great case of show don't tell.
Yeah, yeah.
Another one, show don't tell, is does this whole sequence remind you of another story?
Yeah.
Yes, so it's Jesus,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's
Very symbolic.
muscle Jesus.
Yeah.
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 So he gets crucified. It's hot. It's annoying.
It's hot. There's buzzards circling.
He's dying of thirst.
Yeah, all is
His
lost.
lips are blistered.
Yes.
And then out of nowhere,
comes another one of his chums.
it's a Hawaiian surfer.
But he's not,
No.
but he's not sure if it's a mirage because he kind of looks at it. And
Yeah,
it's
it starts
dark.
cackling.
Yeah, he gets hysterical.
Yeah, I thought that was a good scene. I
Yeah,
didn't know whether he was cackling because he knew that he was saved or that he was thinking,
he's
oh, no,
cackling
that
because
can't be
he's
real.
going bonkers.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'm going mad.
And then he turns up because and it's a nice shot because he sees him.
Yeah.
and then he disappears out of shot because he goes.
There's a dune.
Because he's
Yeah,
running
June.
across from the horizon.
I thought that was
Yeah.
really smart.
And then, so Conan's like, "Yeah, I'm going mad.
Yeah.
Just before I die." And then he rises up over the top of the dune.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very clever.
The visual storytelling in the film is great. Like
And
the
that-
framing, the what they decide to show, the set pieces. I think throughout the whole film, it's
Yeah,
excellent.
I think it's like I said before, it's a very sparse script. Like
Yes.
there's not much dialogue, so
It does remind me of a spaghetti western
Yeah.
where you
Yeah.
get these really close.
Yeah.
You take that scene, right? He's pinned to the tree, and the camera is right in his face, and you can literally see his eyeballs.
That's
right?
true.
And then it cuts
to the
away
super distant.
to some guy that's this big running across
Yeah.
a dune, and then back to Conan and Super. That is about as Sergio Leone as you can get.
yeah, it's that very almost comic style panels.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Graphic novel.
yeah.
So his friends basically rescue him, and they take him back to that
Wizard slash not wizard.
wizard slash not wizard in the burial mound place, and Conan is dead.
Or dying.
He is due to be taken away by the spirits, is sort of the way I perceived it. So he's so close to death that the spirits are tapping their watches.
Okay, so
Come on.
Yeah. Okay, so and he's not, So they bind him up in a kind of a thing, and they're going to ask. What do they ask? They ask the wizard to can't you fix him up?
So yeah, the wizard does some sort of ritual that's supposed to prevent him crossing over.
Yeah.
Prevent the spirits from
Paints
taking
him
him
with
away.
hieroglyphs all over.
Yeah.
Yep.
That kind of graffiti all over
Pretty
his
cool,
face.
actually. I thought it was pretty cool.
It looked really good.
Does some
Cool.
chanting,
Yeah.
chanting and ranting, and then
Shame.
the wizard tells them that the spirits will come, and you will have to fight them off, sort of thing. You will have to keep him in this world, sort of thing. I thought that sequence was pretty good as well. I couldn't remember that from watching Conan early on in my life.
So the storm clouds come in that night.
Yep.
And sure enough, the spirits turn up. Lightning flashes.
And this is that animated piece. The spirits are quite animated, and it's a fight sequence, really, because
How did they do that? Like, I mean, obviously,
it's hand
painted.
animated cell animation. So they
Would they
already
paint
got
directly on the film, or would they put a cell over it?
they paint it over like a cell that then gets optically printed over the top. But yeah, they would have the reference. They would have the cell pretty much the same way that say Snow White was animated. It was reference, and then they literally did the characters in 2D, frame by frame to the reference. So if you already film it, you know exactly where everyone is, and they would probably, because if you look hard, you'll see that the real world characters are the ones that are like pulling him around on the ropes, and it looks like they're trying to save him, but they're actually doing all the motion, and then they just paint in the spirits over the top of that, and I thought it was well done.
Yeah, it was great.
And think, because that goes for a while, so that's a lot of frames that they've had to paint.
Yeah, 24 frames per second. It probably went on for about 45 seconds a minute.
It's a good sequence. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so they fight off the demons, and if the spirits leave, then Conan's life can stay. So kind of, I think the next day he kind of starts to wake up. Oh no, at the end of it, Valerian says a line because she's just fought off the spirits, and she says something like, because she's in a moment of, God, I love you, and so she says, even if I was dead, I would come back from hell to save you, Conan.
Which becomes important for later.
Which, yes, foreshadowing for later on. So what happens then is somehow they alert the guys over at the Temple of Doom. Right? What happens next? What's the next part of the story?
No, they don't alert them.
Oh, that's right. They're going to raid going to go back.
They make the decision to save the daughter.
Yeah, they're going to go save
That's
the daughter.
right. They're going to go and they're going to do it properly this time.
Yeah.
So Conan wakes up, and there's that scene where he's on the beach in the windswept.
And he wants to go back and kill Tulsa Doom, right? But
Yes.
she says, no, we're not doing that. We're just going to go and get the daughter to get the ransom, right? And live happily ever after. And Conan doesn't say anything. He's just brooding, right? He knows exactly what he wants to do.
He's on the beach, doing his weapons practice.
Yes.
He's
trying to get his wrists back to normal.
And actually, I'd like to say the cinematography and the colour here is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It actually reminded me of the Tatooine shots from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because you have the dunes, you have the sea, you have the sort of the pink
Yeah.
sunset.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, they're going back to the Temple of Doom, and it's going to be serious this time. So they put on some cool camouflage.
They find out there's a back door.
They paint their bodies with black and white triangle
Yes,
stuff.
yes.
And
Do
they
we know why?
Look like awesome ninjas.
Look like awesome ninjas.
Because, yeah, they look like awesome
They
ninjas.
do look like awesome ninjas.
Yes.
But they do find out that there's a back door, and I can't remember who told them there was a back door.
The wizard.
It was the wizard? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so, they're going to sneak in the back door. There's
Yep.
a cave or something, right?
Yep.
They sneak in the back door.
Yeah.
So they do all of that, and they're sneaking in the back door, and this time they get to the inner sanctum.
That's right. And we see some...
Writhing, semi-naked bodies.
Yes,
Orgy.
we also see like the working classes down in the bowels
mines.
making the hand and foot stew.
That's right. This is the Temple of Doom,
Yes, it
right?
is, yes.
This is Indiana Jones, and it's like Conanian Jones and the Temple of Doom or something or other, right?
And they're making the mint green
Yes,
cannibal. And did you notice in the background all the upside down bodies that have been butchered?
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
notice
Humans. I only noticed it this time around,
Yeah.
seeing it. But we also get introduced to that whole space by following 6 guys or 8 guys
Yeah.
that are in uniform carrying poles, and they're just marching through in sort of quick step. And we're following them, and the whole time Conan's sneaking about with his little mate in the background, and there's all this mechanical sort of winches and pulleys and stuff going on, and we're following these 8 guys. They come around full circle, and the poles lift up the stew is finished, sort of thing. It's the hand and foot.
I like to call it Soylent Green.
Yeah,
Yes,
it looks
Soylent
like
Green.
Soylent Green.
Yes, exactly.
And they use their poles to lift it up, and they literally are the waiters, basically. And then we follow that stew into the other chamber, which is full of debauchery, orgy, wenches everywhere.
And the actual music, because I've got the Conan soundtrack. 'cause of course
You've got
I do.
everything, man.
And then it's actually called The Orgy.
Yeah.
that bit of music.
Yeah, and they're all off their nut on foot and hand stew. Right?
And it's green and horrible.
So it's some kind of mind-altering concoction.
They put some marijuana in there or something.
Yeah, because we at this stage we also see Thulsa Doom turn into a snake.
that's right.
That's pretty good transformation sequence.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see the physical
Yeah,
puppetry
yeah.
of his jaw coming out. There's no digital effects there. That's all done
I
physical.
thought
It's a bit like Werewolf in London or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
that
Yeah.
it
scene.
was nicely done, and I thought, again, I thought it was interesting that they didn't have any sort of special sort of creepy music for it.
Yep.
Other films have been da 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 da. Whereas this was just magical music, and it just
Yeah.
gradually
kinda
transforms into a
Get the
snake.
feeling that he
That's right.
gets the power from the
Yeah.
orgy and from
yeah,
all that
good
stuff.
Yeah,
Turns into
that's what I felt as well. And it's very harem music, isn't it? It's sort of just some sort of almost Middle Eastern.
It's very spiritual.
Yeah.
There's a very spiritual elements. The whole film actually is
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah.
Spiritual-
So
spirituality.
he transforms and then crawls out through a hole. And then all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, Conan and team just like say, all right, enough of this, and they whip out their swords.
And he starts the whole fracas by dumping the hand and foot stew all over everybody.
which is just Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Yes.
It's just like the gigantic cauldron of
Yep.
of stew goes everywhere. And there's
Yep.
a big fight.
There's a big fight with the 2 henchmen, the 2 metal guitarists, Norwegian metal guitarists. And the princess, the daughter of the king,
That they're trying to capture.
doesn't want to go, right? But she doesn't get a choice, and they grab her, and away they go. They're escaping. Conan actually stuck to the plan, and they got
Well-
the princess out.
Also, the guy without the moustache from Motorhead, his mallet hits the pylon, which brings the whole
That's right.
roof down and kind of ends the fight early.
Yes, that's right.
That's right. They can't complete the fight. That's an important point.
Yes.
So they leave. And yes, as they're galloping away down into the valley,
We see a new special power by Tulsa Doom, don't we?
Yes, and this is very memorable. I was like, yeah, I know what's going on here. So he has a little tiny snake in his hands, right?
Yeah.
And he kind of stretches out the snake, and it like turns into an arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. It looks good on film.
Yeah.
So
Like it looks like it works.
yeah, I had some issues with this sequence. I mean, for starters, he makes this really glorified threat about how they'll learn to fear the night or something. Yeah, remember that? They don't.
No.
I mean, that doesn't happen at all. I mean, she basically fires this arrow at this snake, which is turned into an arrow at that woman. And also, if I was fleeing somewhere, I'd go that way. Whereas they seem to do this loop and then
Back past.
right
Yeah.
in front of him. Only about 100 metres away. Perfect arrow distance.
Yes.
He just-
Yes.
Twang.
So Valeria gets hit by the snake arrow,
Yeah.
Yep.
and it doesn't bode well for her.
No.
Yeah.
So now they go back to the Magician in the burial mound place again.
Yes.
And this time,
Valeria's gone.
Yeah.
Because it was a magic poison arrow.
Yep.
So.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not good.
Yep.
Yeah. So she's in trouble,
And she dies.
and she dies. And this is where they put her on a funeral pyre.
Up
Yeah.
the top of the mound with no
top of
fibre.
the-
And Conan's pissed.
Yes.
He's not too happy.
Yes. And the fire. This is where the fire signals where they are.
Yes.
Right. The Tulsa
Yeah.
Doom and everybody at
Yeah.
the Temple of Doom, they can see the fire.
And it's significant because that's the place where no fire burns. But of course,
Yeah.
Conan's fury.
Makes it burn.
Ignites it, yeah.
So they know that the bad guys are going to turn up with their army.
Well, he wants the princess. Like
True, the
Tulsa
princess,
Doom,
of
the
course.
princess is tied up to a rock. Conan knows that Tulsa Doom's going to come for the princess, and so that she's the bait. And in case you don't know where we are, here's the fire, here's the smoke. And so they're setting up some traps, some sharp pointy sticks, and some.
Yeah, the short pointy sticks don't seem to be particularly effective.
No, there was a lot of falling on the sticks and not falling into them. But I found the big trap that they set. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was cool.
It dispatched the non-bearded
It's very much a
Nordic.
one-trick pony.
guitarist.
If it hadn't worked, it would have been terrible.
Yeah.
It was a waste of time, but
Yeah.
So this is Predator movie, right?
It's pretty.
It's
yes,
the Predator.
You can draw parallels. He's
Or
setting
rather
up primitive, gravity-driven traps and weight-driven traps and things like that.
And he's also waiting for the bad guys to come to him, which
Yes.
is kind of what he does in Predator as well.
Absolutely.
Right?
And in Willow. And in, I think in Clint Eastwood in, what's the film where he goes to that town?
Tail Rider.
All right.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Pale Rider.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
okay. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting that it's not kind of the hero going to the bad guy. But he's attracting the bad guys to him, which is kind of a nice spin. So what happens? The heavy metal dudes turn up with their buddies.
They all turn up. They all pretty much get dispatched, except for Tulsa Doom himself, who decides to stretch out another snake, turn it into an arrow, and shoot it at the princess.
Because he thought, if I can't have her,
Yes.
then that's it.
But she gets saved by Surfer Joe, dives in the way with a shield and protects her. So therefore,
That breaks her brainwashing.
It does. It breaks her brainwashing, and she then sees
Realises, yeah.
the reality.
Okay. I think there's another bit that we kind of missed. I think Conan is down on the ground.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and there's half a heavy metal Norwegian guitarist with his guitar over his head, and he's just about to clonk Conan on the noggin.
And Valeria turns up
Yes.
in shining, glowing armour.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Valkyrie,
Yes.
yeah.
and blocks the blow.
Ching.
And blinds Motorhead guy.
Yeah.
And she gives him a wink, and then she's gone.
She kept her promise.
That's
Came
right.
Back from hell.
Came back from the dead.
Valhalla, yeah.
All right, so the heavy metal band's dead. The princess has been deconverted. There's only one thing left to do, and that's go and visit Tulsa Doom, who's gone back to his Temple of Doom to just like chill.
Yes. Well, once Tulsa Doom killed Conan's girlfriend, there was only one way this was going to end. So I think, and I think he takes the princess with him, doesn't he?
Yeah, she was there at the end.
She was there at the end.
Yeah, she helps him
Yeah.
get that close.
Yeah.
So Tulsa's, I think, just, he's like, oh, man, I've got to get back to the cult. We've got a cult meeting tonight.
Yeah.
There's going to be a big ritual on. So he's like, well, I'll have to deal with this tomorrow.
Yep.
So he's back at the Temple of Doom. It's at night. They've got all the torches burning. The hippies have turned up in force.
He's giving his
Sermon.
sermon from the top of the mountain.
He seems extra pissed.
Yeah.
And he's saying that they're going to wipe off, they're going to cleanse the
Yes.
earth. So
Yes.
I think at this stage he's gone, well, I'm going straight to I'm skipping parts B, C, and D
Yes.
plan.
Yes,
And
he's
I'm
gone
gonna-
full Waco.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Conan is sneaking up the back steps.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's nothing too elaborate. He's literally just
But that's
sneaking
why-
up the back
and
way.
that's why he took the princess. You see her walk through and people let her walk through
Yeah.
because they assume.
Yeah.
And so he then turns up in front of everybody, up on the ledge. Tulsa Doom v. Conan.
Yep.
And
Sword
it's
in
going to be
hand.
a showdown.
But it isn't.
No.
There was no big fight.
No. He tries to talk him out of it.
Tries to talk him out of it.
Because he tries to
Tries to
tell-
give him his starry eye thing.
and tries to convince him that
Yeah.
that
This is
he's
his
been
father.
Conan's reason for living.
Yes, yeah, and I thought that was an interesting Star Wars crossover, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we've heard that voice say that I'm your father.
He does. He says, yeah.
He sort of says it in this film, doesn't he?
I think it's in all his
Yeah.
contracts.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's in his rider. So yes, Conan almost falls for it. He starts to get a little bit daisy-eyed.
So it's his kind of last card. I think Tulsa Doom's last card is to
Yeah.
say, hey, man, I'm the reason you...
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the reason for Conan to live is to shove a sword up
Yes.
Tulsa Doom's butt.
And I think Tulsa Doom got cocky, right? I thought he was more powerful than... I think he thinks he was more powerful than he really was.
Yeah, maybe.
Which is more powerful, it's
if you don't have a
steel
sword and
or
that
the-
guy's 6'4" and 280 pounds,
And very angry.
Turns out steel is kind of powerful.
And so we find out the Emperor has the head.
Yes.
and I thought it was poignant that it wasn't a clean head
No.
beheading.
That's right.
it's
It was a multi-chop thing
Yeah.
going on, and that's
It's a
brutal.
series.
That's
Yes.
barbaric.
It's a process.
And I'm thinking, and that is very Conan.
Yeah, it's barbaric.
Robert E. Howard wrote it.
Yeah.
Like that. It's
Yeah.
not he didn't want a shiny knight in armor
No.
world.
No.
It's a brutal, gritty world.
Yeah.
It's not a beheading where you hear the sword go ka-ching.
Yeah.
It's chock, chock, chock. You know,
Just chucks the head down the...
and you can hear it
Boom.
like a bowling ball
Yeah.
landing on
And then
concrete.
it just goes quiet, and then they just start chucking the torches in the water.
And I like that scene. I like the way that the
really like that.
silence
Yeah.
was brilliant. No one knew
just
what
like-
to do.
Yeah, it was like all the hippies were like, oh. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
well, that's it then. Let's go home.
Yeah, that's right.
Party's
It's
over.
It's
He's
over.
like, buzzkill.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
That's
yeah.
over. It was fun while it lasted, but now we...
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah.
And he's the only one left sitting on the stairs there. I
This
thought
is
that
the
was
day
really good.
after, all the hippies are gone, all the flowers are lying on the
Very
ground.
spaghetti western.
Yeah.
The whole
Yeah.
ending, just anticlimax, just wander off into the desert and...
Yeah.
And it's just him and the princess, though. The princess is
Yeah,
there.
the princess, and she...
But there's also an important moment with the princess because she's like she does the subservient
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Conan.
Yeah.
Like, and now I'm subservient to you, and he doesn't take that.
He
He's
just
like,
walks
no,
past her.
No,
Yeah.
he just walks past her and then just holds out his hand.
Yeah.
He's not buying into that.
I thought that was good.
Yeah, it was a good ending.
And I thought it was a good place to end it as well. And I do like that final scene where we have that that post credit, that we normally see at the start of a film, where you read this exposition. Instead, we're getting exposition about other adventures.
Yeah.
You know,
You see him sitting on the throne. And
yeah,
As a king.
It was all...
king by his own hand.
Yeah, it was a good end. It was a good end to the
Because
film.
the first
Yeah.
Conan story that Robert E. Howard wrote back in the 1930s was actually. It starts with Conan being an old king that used to be a barbarian.
Yeah,
Telling a scribe about some of his adventures.
yeah,
Okay.
And he's bored and unhappy being a king. Being a king blows.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it, and because he's a gruff barbarian, and the whole king thing is boring. Mm-hmm. So the first Conan story is him actually telling some of his adventures, and then just Robert E. Howard kept writing them, and what he wrote were mostly the stuff that happened before he becomes king.
It's a smart. If you wanted to write a series of stories based around one character, it's a great premise, right? Where character A meets character B. Character B is the person that's had all the adventures, and you invent a reason for them to tell the stories of those adventures to this person. And once you set that up, away you go, right? And you can episodic the whole thing. You can have them roll in. You can have an overarching sort of story.
There's a lot of wonder discussion about whether when he wrote that first Conan story, if that's what he planned, or he just wrote that first story and kind of went, "That's really cool," and it sold well because they used to sell them to the old pulp adventures back then. And if you kind of went, "Oh, people like that," and I really dig that character, I might do some more. We don't know.
And I think Conan, certainly some of the success of the franchise has to come from the visuals, the pictorial visuals that went with a lot of the covers, the book artwork.
Yeah.
And is it Franzetta? Franzetta?
That was
classic.
Just brilliant. Like no one does those, heroic poses on a rock with a sword or an axe and a wench at the feet, and it created an entire stylistic visual genre around this type of film.
And then Marvel Comics had a really good 30-year run with 3 different Conan titles. Now it's Dark Horse and a whole bunch of others, but
well, is there a better human on the planet in 1980 that could have played this role?
And it's interesting because he doesn't look anything like Conan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Conan actually has black hair, short black Betty Page.
Yeah, I know the images. Yeah,
very blue eyes. But I don't think there was anyone that could have embodied Conan the way
he did. Yeah,
it's perfect.
And I think it's a bit like Daniel Radcliffe. He didn't look like Harry Potter either. Harry Potter was supposed to have bright green eyes and all this stuff. But they just are able, even though they don't look like the character, they're able to embody the character so well
that you look at it and go, couldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
And I think with him too, the Terminator was the same. When you look at the Terminator, you look at that and go, well, Stallone couldn't do that, right? There's no one else that could have done that because he created that character so well. All right, gentlemen, let's talk about our rating system: burn, borrow, buy. Rick, I'm pretty sure I know what you've already bought it.
In every format.
You've got the Conan pajamas at home. So it's a buy for Rick. What about you, Dan?
It's a buy for me. Yeah, it's a friggin' awesome movie.
It's a good one to have in the collection. I think I've got both. The other one is Conan the Destroyer.
Yeah. And we don't talk about the film that was done about 10 years ago.
Yeah, so I didn't even...
Oh, yes, the one that's got Aquaman as the Jason Momoa. Look, as a standalone film, if the original Conan movies didn't exist, it's not a bad film. But you can't redo Conan,
if
right?
they didn't attach the name Conan to it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, they could have gotten away with it. So it's certainly a buy for me. I've got both films in the collection. What about you, Tony?
Probably a borrow.
Borrow?
I don't think I'd buy it.
Philistine.
But I definitely wouldn't burn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd borrow it to watch it. I would probably, if it was on Netflix or something, I would watch it. Definitely.
So Tony's hit his head. It's certainly...
we can edit that out later.
Yes, that's right. You'll hear another voice go over the top of Tony's lips. Oh, it's a borrow.
That's what AI's for, right?
That's right. All right. So yes, it's certainly highly recommended. However you come across
it's
it,
a great film. Yeah.
and it does sort of punch above its weight in this particular genre because there's some garbage in, like there is in the sci-fi genre as well.
Especially during this period.
Yes.
Nowadays we expect fantasy to be high production, high value.
After Lord of the Rings or something.
Yeah, and
It's
Game of Thrones. But
it's sat in Cheapville for almost 2 decades.
Yeah, but for fantasy it was B grade back here.
Yeah.
And to end up with something like Conan back in 1982 was
it's very good. It's very good.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, I've got a quiz. 10 questions.
Just give it to Rick now.
You might be surprised. These could be obscure,
I just hit
useless
the button
things.
randomly every time.
So we'll test your buzzers. Dan. Okay, Rick. Tony. All right, nice. So if you attempt to answer and you are unsuccessful, I shall lock you out, and then the remaining people left in the quiz for that question can buzz in. First to buzz in gets to answer. Question number 1. What is best in life? Rick.
To crush your enemies, see them run before you, and hear the lamination of them.
The lamination again.
It is lamination. You did have one word wrong.
That's second best in life,
Right.
is the lamination.
You the second part of that, you said see them,
Driven before you.
but I think you got it close enough. So I'm going to give you the points for that one. Question number 2: what family member of Conan's gets
His mum.
decapitated by Tulsadun? That is correct.
Victory.
Sometimes it doesn't pay to come in early, but Dan has that one's worked in his advantage to his advantage.
I'm feeling it.
Question number 3: what is Thulgrim's weapon of choice? Tony?
Hammer.
Giant hammer, correct. Score is 1-1 across the board. Question number 4: who is Conan's god? Rick?
Crom.
Crom. Correct?
I have to say it like Crom.
You do have to say it, correct.
Croman doesn't like it if you don't say it.
That's right. It's blasphemous. Question number 5: what is the name of Conan's main squeeze? Rick?
Valeria.
Valeria is correct. Rick is now out to 3 points, and you are the losers on 1 each. Question number 6: what city is Conan destined to be king of?
It's actually the kingdom of Aquilonia, not the city.
It is the kingdom of Aquilonia.
And that is true of the law. So then just make that up for the film.
Question number 7: how does Conan kill Tulsadun? Dan.
Ha ha ha! Chops off his noggin.
He certainly does. Question number 8: who directed Conan the Barbarian? Rick.
Dino De Laurentiis, wasn't it?
You are locked out.
Son of a bitch. Crom.
It's up to you, gentlemen. So who directed Conan the Barbarian? No takers. Dan?
Oliver Stone.
Oliver Stone wrote the script. I got a feeling
He was sitting
I
next
heard
to
him
the
in
director.
an interview. I think he was brought in later, and I think the script was a little bit poor as far as a film script, and then they brought in Oliver
needed a
Stone
bit of
because by that time I think he'd done the Vietnam film. What was that one?
Platoon. No?
Platoon.
I don't think so.
Or Clint, is it Platoon?
Platoon. He did a
Yeah.
he did Platoon.
So if there's no takers, the director was John Milius.
So, yeah.
Okay, question number 9. Who played the role of Valeria? Rick?
Name I can't pronounce. Sandrahan Bergman or something.
That's close enough for me. It's Sandal Bergman. So Rick on 5 points, Tony on 1, Dan on 2.
Hear the lamination of the booze.
Last question. And for this question, it is a 5-point question.
5 points. All right. I am within grasp of victory here.
The film starts with a text quote from Friedrich Nietzsche.
I've got the second one.
Rick.
If you screw this up,
Rick.
I'm biting at your heels.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
It's very close. It's
Will
not
only
exactly
make you
word for
stronger.
word. It's not exactly
what
word
doesn't
for word. But so
kill you
you're
will
still
make you
alive. Is there any other takers want to go for a word for word correct
What
pronunciation?
doesn't kill you only makes you stronger?
Which I think is what he just said. But
I added the word only.
But it's
and I want credit for that.
and only is not in it.
Oh, bugger.
I'm like,
Got nothing. That which does not kill us makes us stronger.
okay.
No. Okay.
So it's
So no points at all for that one. But Rick still won with 5, Dan second with 2, Tony with
Did Rick
1.
get another 5 points?
No,
So
no,
you've
he
got
didn't
10.
get it. He didn't get it close enough.
Oh, okay. True. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
crush your enemies, see
Yes.
them driven before you, and,
And
hear the lamination
and
of
the-
women.
all right, gentlemen, that has been Conan the Barbarian. Reach out if you are listening to this or watching this. Certainly reach out and say good day, especially if you get into a bunch of dribblers waffling on about cinema of yesteryear or across time and genre. Certainly subscribe, ring the bell, check us out on most platforms, podcasting platforms, and Spotify. We're on now that's only a recent addition, so you can now check us out on Spotify, iTunes, and all the rest of it. We've been on iTunes for forever, but Spotify's a new one. So that's it for another episode of Voyage of the Geek. Until next time, it's bye for me.
Crom. Crom from me.
Well, you stole my thunder there.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, see you later.
Crom from you as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
bye.
off to laminate some women.
How many of you are there?